Welcome, everybody. I'm Mike Weiss. I'm really excited to be here today in Seattle. I'm a senior solution architect at Epic Games, and I've spent my career creating pipelines for content generation in a lot of industrial and product design use cases, telling stories in transportation and consumer products for over 20 years. I typically am called in for managing complex product pipelines and workflows, and Unreal's really revolutionized the amount of product features and accessories that we can demonstrate in the consumer market. Today's focus is on how you can approach evaluating your current workflows in order to maximize the value of your organization's Unreal visualization-based platform. I'm hoping to inspire you with some ways to take the first steps and take advantage of the efficiencies and creative freedom that Unreal has to offer. I'm going to share some of the tips and tricks from the new BMW 5 Series project that we're showcasing this week and get you started. I'm excited to share as many tips and tricks and strategies as I can fit in the time today, but we're going to keep things moving along. So in this session, we won't have the opportunity to go deep into all the details, but my goal today is to cover a bunch of topics for folks of all different levels. So when you see a QC code, it'll take you to more information. So take a picture with your phone, take a screenshot if you're watching this at home, and you'll be able to check out more information. At Epic, we care deeply, and we've been hyper-focused on product visualization. And as a result, 80% of the automotive companies are licensing Unreal for some part of their business. I personally had the opportunity to talk behind closed doors and help folks integrate Unreal into their pipelines, and I'm excited to distill some of that information and share it with you today. Since 2016, the use of Unreal throughout the entire product lifecycle has been rapidly expanding, and now's a really great time to jump on board and kick the tires. There's so many great opportunities for your teams to leverage Unreal across your entire organization, and it's amazing when we walk the halls and see the incredible things that you are all doing today. Last year at Unreal Fest, the team from Lotus shared how they fully integrated Unreal Engine across their pipeline, and I encourage you to check it out. John did a great job sharing, and it's really exciting. From design experiences for internal, external marketing, collaborative review sessions, bringing folks from all over the world together, interactive content production inside the experience centers where customers are purchasing your products, even entire campuses visualized. The folks are loving the fact that they have a fast, iterative tool like Unreal to help them work in a distributed team. And I've also had the pleasure of helping folks enrich the customer journey on the road with Unreal inside the vehicle at the heart of the driving experience. In the past, the HMI design and engineering teams were kind of locked out in two different softwares. And the fast iteration time and the incredible boost of easily publishing on their first day their initial prototypes in wireframe ideas right on a hardware target has been a game changer in getting them to be able to communicate faster. The immediate usefulness of sharing that platform really drives a ton of efficiency and reuse, and that brings me to my first key to success. There's no better place than Unreal Fest to look around and explore and be inspired. Looking beyond our individual expertise to learn what the community has achieved really helps us understand what's going on out there. When we meet with specialized teams in large organizations, one observation that I've had is that often there are many groups around the world trying to achieve the same or similar goals, and they simply don't know each other exists in the same company. Contributing directly to this unified platform and building a crowdsourcing culture internally will absolutely drive innovation, build community, reduce rework, and improve project turnaround time. By collaborating and sharing ideas from diverse backgrounds and experiences, we will always find the best solution because everybody comes informed from a different informed perspective. It's so tempting to do exactly what we've always done in enterprise visualization with every software tool we get. The idea that things are just the way they are is natural. However, moving to Unreal is different in the best way. When folks ask me about designing processes, one of the things that we have to overcome is that we as humans usually bring many of our workflow biases with us to the table. The method that we solution architects use when retooling pipelines are kind of broken down to these 4 key steps. The first step is to look for a high value, yet achievable set goal, and set some key performance indicators for the areas that you're trying to improve on by leveraging your real-time platform. Don't start too big. Find something that you can fail safe on, figure out how it works, and take it one step at a time. This will bring a common foundation. It'll get all your ideas out, and you'll be able to develop some idea of what success looks like. I like to go through and document and evaluate all the workflow steps in an as-is state, and really live in the shoes of all the different groups in order to figure out where the best decision points are that contribute to the platform and empower those users to maximize their efforts. This establishes a framework to prove out and prune out any overlap and any outdated efforts that are just no longer a thing when you're working in a modern pipeline. It also informs us of the things that we can automate away with Interchange or other tools. And with a clear set of objectives, we can build systems and processes where everybody contributing globally, and we can monitor the KPIs to tune things over time with every iteration just being more efficient than the prior. And we tend to try to start from a blank sheet of paper, but in most cases, these challenges that we're trying to tackle have already been solved by other industries. There's so many diverse projects delivered in Unreal every day. Most challenges we will encounter have been addressed by one form or another by the community. And one of the strategies that's helped me is to seek inspiration and get a fresh perspective across every industry. There's no testament more than that here at Unreal Fest this week. It's so energizing to see the amazing things that people are doing with Unreal and abstracting those challenges into workflow steps and studying how other industries standardize their systems and structures always inspires me for creating systems that are connected, efficient, and feel natural in the daily lives of all the different users. I'm constantly looking for different patterns, modern historical manufacturing methods, cloud and desktop software design, traditional media and arts. They all inspire me to find new ways to approach this pipeline architecture. By equipping myself with a fundamental understanding of how all these different systems work, it helps me communicate across different domains. And that's incredibly useful when you're trying to break down processes and bring teams together to collaborate. When folks realize that their core application is really hard to scale, or they're looking for ways to collaborate globally, the gaming industry has encountered and addressed nearly all of these challenges. Developing a core Unreal experience and making a loadable package of your products, which can be managed, is much easier. It's the same concept as patching and downloadable content for games. And when you're trying to store local configurations for your users, this is really similar to a save game functionality in a game. And with the extensible nature of Unreal, customizing these concepts to fit your needs is extremely accessible. And one of the best places that I found that's just an endless point of inspiration is the Epic developer community. Having a learning library of thousands of relevant articles, having documentation at my fingertips, it's been a great point to research what's already been done. By just going there and putting my search in the top of the bar and see what's out there, it's just like a one-stop shop. It's great. So I love it when folks get excited the first time they get to interact with their product in real time, but I know that's only the beginning. Having consistency in the review process ensures that we're focused on the product and its design, not the technology that's driving the visualization under the hood. So many tools are limited to the features that they offer out of the box, and this can limit our ability to innovate. With the source code availability of Unreal, one can customize and extend it for all your specific needs. You should own your visualization platform. Many organizations have benefited from being on this common platform since it's extensible, and it works with a lot of their unique software tools. For example, on the BMW, we were using CATIA version 5, data from BMW directly. With the right strategy, you can harness all the good stuff that all your various teams are doing in different aspects of the business. And having control of your data and making the platform your own is the first step to harnessing all the power of your team's brain trust globally. Your digital assets have incredible value across all the domains of your enterprise product organization. And I'm not just talking about cars. This relates to all industries. Each step through the process generates reusable content that groups down the line can use as a boost in content quality and efficiency. Visualizing the customer journey in context earlier in the process gives your team a common vision of where the product's headed, how it'll feel, and how it reacts in the hands of customers. So, how do we get started? How do we build this platform, right? Harness all the good stuff. Everyone in your organization likely has some specialty. Sharing assets across and maximizing the value of every group's contribution acts as an incredible accelerator for establishing your robust visualization platform. And there's some very simple first steps that you can take today to really begin to foster a culture of shared collaboration or use across your teams. The need for high quality, accurate materials is not unique to Unreal or even computer graphics. The color, fabric, paint, materials, and design team exists in some form in any physical product producing organization. Often these groups are really excited to interact with the product early inside tools like Unreal to make decisions. Many times, we, in the data preparation group, get to see the complete product for the very first time in context before nearly anybody else. It's commonplace that folks doing digital materials are aware and they're interested in exploring Unreal Engine because we're constantly pushing the limits of what graphics can deliver. The material and texture assets that they produce are massively valuable in every single part of the digital design process. And it's such an easy win. And having quality materials early in the pipeline boosts the perceived quality of the product at any point of the product decision process. And you don't have to start from zero. Making materials in Unreal is very accessible. And once you have a basic material library built out, you can easily iterate and tweak these materials for all future use cases. Be sure to go to the marketplace and grab not only our automotive material pack, which is so popular, but also the content samples project, which has an incredible number of references to all kinds of exotic material networks. Check out the Megascans assets in the marketplace, soon to be fab. Actually, yeah, soon to be fab. And sure, look at the Twinmotion content plugin, as it has a lot of really great resources in there to start building the foundation of your material library. It's really important to understand the underlying technology that Unreal is based on. We often see enterprise projects that are using old concepts from offline rendering and they're not optimized for the experience. One topic that always seems to come up is the use of very large resolution texture maps, and they aren't using texture streaming, which means they can't use MIPS generation. And often their dimensions are not power of 2 and they never stream. Due to the GPU architecture that we're all relying on, this is a huge waste of resources. Having the right standards in place for your library will literally save you money in the long run. Your experience will be more stable. It'll load faster, and it'll even run on modest hardware requirements, making it accessible to a broader audience in even VR if you desire. These basic game tricks are there for a good reason. And our developer community has tons of learning opportunities for folks to quickly come up to speed on these core concepts. With a bit of organizational standards and some documentation internally, you can really supercharge your assets and empower your teams to be more productive. And what I want to demonstrate is just a little bit of structure and planning and some basic standards. Our interactions with Unreal can become very fluid and intuitive. One of the first things that I would prioritize in setting up is a standard look and approval process for materials. This sets expectations and establishes a reference point for the decision-making process. I see this often. Experienced teams are already doing this, but I want to make sure I set it here. Locking in real-world lighting and camera values means we can focus on the material. And those things are very influential to each other, right? You have to have the camera and the lights locked in so that you're really focusing on the material itself and just deal with one thing at a time. One common tool I see used across different material workflows in retail, consumer products, entertainment, and transportation design is a standardized lighting booth. This booth has lighting conditions that are classified for various known scenarios, often based on the standards set for stores or their environments. And since Unreal has physically based lights with real-world equivalents, it's possible to create a digital twin of your light booth. And that's exactly what I've been testing. The team at X-Rite Pantone has a product called the SpectraLight QC. It's a light booth with various lighting modes and measurable output to classify these conditions. As a proof of concept, I've been working with their team to produce an Unreal version of the SpectraLight QC. There we go. Gotta get the video running. So this proof of concept is really cool because since they can measure the lighting values from the physical box, the SpectraLight QC itself, we can use that real-world lighting information inside Unreal to set targets for our lighting values to match. This gives the material experts a familiar environment to make the best decisions possible when validating their digital materials. Having a controlled and properly configured physical setup in Unreal for lighting and cameras means that we can really focus on the material properties as we tune them in. This system demonstrates that you too can set up your own digital twin for your lighting environment, whether it's a professional light booth like this, or in context in the real world in your courtyard or photo studio, giving everyone involved in the decision-making process a common set of tools. It sets expectations throughout that process so everyone's focused on the material itself and not distracted by the environment. And there's more to come from me in the future regarding this experiment, so keep an eye on the EDC. We're so excited to be here this week and finally be able to show the world what we've been working on. All the incremental improvements that Unreal Engine has been pushing in over the years is really starting to pay off. We started with the Speed of Light demo, and with UE5, the love of cars at Epic is really shining through. Taking advantage of all these years of innovation and all these new systems in Unreal, combined with our long-term commitment to the automotive industry, this has enabled us to unleash the creative freedom without compromise to quality and change management efficiency. We really care about the market as a team, and we're hyper-focused on demonstrating how Unreal as a platform can unleash your creativity and help you show your products in the most complete way possible. Leveraging all the amazing UE5 features and battle testing the amazing demos before us gave us an amazing foundation to stand on. As we push the limits of what's considered possible, when we brought the complete CATIA hierarchy from BMW into Unreal, we worked as a globally distributed team. I can't emphasize how much communication was key. We had regular communications, and this was a direct contributor to the success of the project. We had team members in 4 different time zones. It was a small, focused team on this with a fantastic game engine under the hood. Having a clear and concise project plan, a defined vision of success, and constant communication is essential. Making sure that groups can communicate and collaborate ensures success down the line. The Interchange framework enabled us to customize and optimize the import of that 150% CAD data model. And for those not used to that term. 150% means we can do left-hand and right-hand drive in all the configurations. It's just a shorthand. And the Datasmith CAD kernel, paired with Interchange, allowed us to translate and tessellate directly into our project. For the first time in a demo, our mission was to focus on change management optimization for engineering and design visualization. We set the bar high. And it was a primary goal to preserve that hierarchy and let Nanite do its thing. Across 20,000 actors, we didn't merge, we didn't restructure, we didn't clean the backsides of any of the meshes. We just imported it and kept it as it was in the originating CAD system. The modeling tools, lattice deformer was used, and the materials on the tires and seats gave them realistic curvature. We used a traditional CAD-based workflow with many assembly updates through the project, just like a real product development cycle. Because that is how it normally progresses in the real world production environment. The data was just there. It just worked. It was super exciting to work with a real car and not have to load and unload levels. This capability we demonstrated, having that entire car loaded in, gave us the opportunity to bring not only future and current. This unlocks not only that we can bring in the current vehicle, but also future vehicles or historical vehicles as we build this platform. And that's been an ask for a long time from many of you. To be able, how do I look at my old stuff, and how do I look at my current stuff, and how do I plan for my future stuff? And by having these rules set with Interchange, as we demonstrated, it's incredibly powerful to start to bring just-in-time manufacturing techniques into something like Unreal. The more structured and the more defined your data is coming in, the more automation that you can wrap around your platform. And this is important as it unleashes so much value across the entire product lifecycle. The way that we can customize Interchange and show the user how to customize those imports before the workers start to generate unneeded content gives us control like never before. The Interchange framework is Unreal's import and export framework, in case you aren't aware. It's file format agnostic, it's asynchronous, it's customizable, as we showed, and it can be used at runtime. Customizing the Interchange pipelines makes it possible to manage the options that are offered to users at the time of import. And I love how, as a pipeline architect, I can easily simplify the import options for different formats in individual ways to customize this. And then additionally, Interchange will show us as decision makers what's coming in before it begins to actually do the heavy lifting work. And saves a lot of time and a lot of processing power. And pipeline architects can use this. It's based on blueprints, so it's very accessible. And there's also a robust Python API that we use to do automation there. If you'd like to know more about the Interchange framework, Flavian's talk from Unreal Fest Prague was really great. It's a great session. All these links will be available in the end as well. But and then earlier this week, I had the pleasure of presenting our work with Andy and Doug, and we showed a lot of the under the hood stuff when it comes to Interchange. So be sure to check that out. Some of the things that enabled us with these pipeline standards is we're bringing best-in-class authoring tools inside Unreal to reduce round tripping. We talked a lot about the modeling tools in that prior session, and what it let us do is stay in the editor, and nothing bumps you out of the creative flow in a productive state when you have to round trip out of software. So having the UV tools, having mesh repair tools, have normal management tools, all this stuff in the editor was a huge benefit. Russell did a session this week, yesterday, on 50 tips and tricks in the modeling mode, and it's definitely worth checking out. So I mentioned it before, but laying out UVs right in the editor was a blessing. It was just a game changer to just be able to go right in and do this. And while we're doing it here as a demonstration, we also did it with Interchange on the way in. So it's not manual all the time. It's manual when you need to tweak something or you decide you need to make a conscious choice. The user toolbox is another piece that really was essential to our success. And it's available. We as a team put it in Unreal 5.2 and we continue to ship it. So use it. There's a lot of great tools in there. We talked about them a lot in the prior session, so I'm just going to keep things moving along. But it was a daily blessing to be able to just have tools at our fingertips. And having all these different things based on Blueprint or C++ or Python, whatever your developers are comfortable with, right, is very accessible in that toolbox. The idea was, we know it's hard to document and train processes when the tools are distributed across the entire UI or buried in menus. So we wanted to put a system together that let folks have at their fingertips the tools that they use every day. This, in conjunction with the modeling mode, right in the viewport, not mode switching, is incredibly powerful. And then having, these are all things that are in there. Please use them. We have analytics shaders. We have the one on top's for normals, the one on the bottom's for quick UV layout, and you can just toggle it using the toolkit. So at least, if nothing else, know that it's there and use it. Building repeatable patterns in Blueprint and the authoring experience based on common structures is a great way to prepare your team for scaling. Just like any other programming language, there's patterns in Blueprint that are commonplace. Setting up modular, flexible systems inside Unreal is another way to make sure that you can use the same tooling on all your different programs. One example of this flexible system I wanted to quickly share is a glimpse of how we handled the camera bookmarks in the UI. Just this simple blueprint right here shows one of the tricks in gaming that I learned when I started working with Unreal that's super powerful. What you can do is create your own blueprint classes specifically to your needs. This makes it really efficient to parse your level for actors of that class, and at runtime or in the editor, you can find them. And not only that, but when you're doing something historic, it's really easy to either update a parameter or add a thing or find those things to change them. And then we can create tools around that in your runtime experience or right inside the editor. So in this case, we have this BP camera configurator class. And so in the UI, there is a bar at the bottom where you can click a camera, and it will show you, in our experience, 5 different camera views, the interactive camera and 4 bookmarks. But all I have to do to add to that is just create another Cinecamera actor or another BP camera configurator object actor in the scene. And then now I have 5. It's super powerful. It's a really great way to go. Oh, yeah, sorry, I actually show it here, sorry. So you can see at the bottom there, we have the bars, and so all of those are just basically those actors in the scene. So when I'd ask Mark to update that camera position, and we could work through art direction on it, you can use that as a way to look at your hero shots, look at all your different takes, use it for rendering. It's really endless. The peeling system is another example. So I created a struct with some tags. It's arbitrary. You can have as many as you want. Because the tooling for the user interface that you see at the bottom is just some blueprint. And basically it dynamically builds the editor utility widget that's used to assign the layers to tag the objects. So what's amazing about this is that it builds out not only the tagging system on the left, but also all the options to hide and show in the middle. And it can be based on your own standards and your own constructs. And you see I have the one that says use marketing tag struct. That means you can use multiple structures for different purposes. I knew that it needed to be art directable. And there's always going to be a change request, right? So build loose, flexible systems that give your users control to quickly make decisions and interact with the data. The orbit camera is another example when we're spinning around the car. Because the pivot points, we retained the original CAD data structure and we left it as untouched as possible. We couldn't rely on the pivot points of the individual objects being centered because all the pivot points were at the origin. So for the orbit cam, I couldn't really rely on that pivot to be all the collective parts. So what I did is we made an actor that we can place in the level that gives the camera its pivotal position. And so you can adjust it for each car. And you can put these attributes on each car so that each car tells the system where its orbital center should be. The other thing we did is we put the center of the separation as an actor in the level. Because then you could art direct it. If you want to always like push them backwards, push them upwards, push them downwards, whatever, you just set that actor in the level intuitively. You don't have to know how the code works. You just know that you need to put that thing where you want it to be. It's amazing to see how the ideation quality and collaboration accelerated once we had the game mechanics implemented, even at the most basic level. Being able to interact with that camera and explore the new BMW 5 Series right inside the editor just set us free. We were doing real-time feedback on lighting and materials and cinematics and of course the data itself when we were able to even just use the hide system. It didn't have to be fancy, right? Just being able to hide those layers, we were able to discover duplicate geometry. We were able to discover, and that's in every CAD system, you're gonna have duplicate geometry for different foams, for example, have different compression points. And we were able to find CAD shaders where maybe we missed it on the interchange import for a swap because we could just work with the data intuitively and we didn't have to click all the eyeballs to hide them and show them. We could work right in the viewport. And it was a blast interacting with the vehicle this whole time. It was like being in a real garage in the desert. We didn't have to task switch and trying to figure out which layers do we have to load or what scripts do we have to run. It was just there. I never had so much fun interacting with a car in this gigantic data set in my entire career. And it was funny because when I added the flashlight feature to the pawn, it was just so natural to use it. We would get in areas and want to see more, and so we could just toggle it on. It's just like it was just really there scouting around the dark areas. Designing for interaction in a non-binding way. For example, in this system where I'm pulling it apart, we raycast and we use the query collisions dynamics to modify the parts that we interact with. Because again, all this is happening at runtime. All of these pivots are not in the center of these objects. So when you encounter them, we calculate the bounds of the center of the object and find a vector that we can move. In this tool, it's based on the perspective view. In the peeling system, it's based on the vector of the mesh average, and that's what makes it go the direction that it goes. And all that stuff is done at runtime. It didn't have to be done in the editor. We didn't have to change the data at the foundation. So when you're working on systems for interaction, take things one step at a time, testing incrementally and saving often. That's what I want to say, save often. Keep your code checkpoints when things work, because you're exploring, you're pushing the limits, you're pushing the boundaries. Since we rounded up the complexity by just 1 degree on all these systems, these game mechanics are useful in virtual production and any other interaction the product will have. Putting a little bit more time and effort and giving the users just a little bit more control is always going to be a perpetual win. Powerful doesn't have to mean complex. Even a simple flashlight can empower users. And when I'm looking at these things, I consider puppeteering. When designing for interaction, consider and empower your future self. When splitting between the pawn, the game mode, and other blueprints, think about multi-product interaction first when you're assigning and trying to figure out where you store your attributes. And we use the world partition system with 1 file per actor in order to be able to not lock each other out. And so you can't use things like the level blueprint. And that's good in my opinion, because it makes you place these things where they should be naturally. Use loose coupling. Don't put strict assignments buried in your blueprints where folks can't find it. I exposed as many parameters as possible so that end users can make conscious decisions on where things go and don't make spaghetti salad. Use comments, use colors, use the deprecation flag, because it makes it really easy for your teammates to look in there and see what's going on. This is all well and good, but we're here to talk about complexity and how to tackle it, especially practically in your workflow. It's wonderful that we did all this data in Unreal. We brought all these amazing systems to life, that we can interact with it in this way, but you're like, how, like, I made my products. I have products in Unreal projects. How do I structure those assets so I can reuse them across my projects? And how do I distribute the work across my teams? And the next key to success that I want to share is being able to reuse and kit bash your assets across projects. Having your assets self-contained and validated and ready to go means that you can plug them into every project. You do it from our stuff all the time from Quixel, right? When you pull in something from Quixel Bridge, it's self-contained, it's validated. This makes accuracy and performance just so I can't even express how much this helps when you distribute these with a robust version control system and you make non-monolithic structures so that many parts can be tackled and managed on their own, makes a library and a single point of truth for everyone to rely on. Naturally, there's going to be dependencies in the change management, so developing a version control system early will really pay off in the long term, and build a library for everyone to access and contribute to. All of those useful systems, assets crowdsourced within your organization lets your team do amazing things, like the city sample, for example. It's a huge sandbox. There's so many assets there to play around with. And you can customize your own little part of the city. And it really shows how the world influences the product visualization experience. Having all those assets at your fingertips lets you explore your product in a much more realistic way. BMW demonstrated this in Prague this year, how they used UE to simulate the driver experience and test user interactions in real time. Just check it out to learn more, but just having those assets ready to go really empowers these amazing experiences. And put your products in real world context. Building the experience is a lot of fun, first off. And you have so many, all of these are samples that we've done over time that we've got on the marketplace. You can use these as your framework to build. We used the bridge, for example, in our project in the beach, just as a test environment to make sure that our materials were acting the way that we wanted them to. That's what I meant earlier when I said in real world context. And all of these you can pull down today and start playing around with. And what you can do with that is start to create content-only plugins. This is a huge key to success. Content-only plugins are self-contained and validated. Having this basic functionality, you can really logically break up a project into things that are unique to the project, and then start to pull out things that are assets that you want to be able to distribute. This modular pattern is seen often in software development, and using the same idea, we can distribute work across the teams and establish some versioning standards. And we'll also have content that's flexible enough to plug into any project, but still be iterated on its own. So what is a content-only plugin, right? It's self-contained and validated. And basically, it's just another folder in the project. So to see this first, you just need to enable show plugin content in your content browser. And then you can migrate your project elements directly into the content plugin folder. I didn't know that for a long time, and it's so powerful. You don't have to make a new level. You don't have to make a new project, make a map, content folder and pull it in. You can go right into that folder. And let Unreal resolve those references, because the trickiest part is decoupling all the links in your project to those assets to get them to be self-contained and validated. And while it sounds fancy, it's really straightforward to create. Let me show you how really quickly. So in the plugins dialog, you just click the add button, you make a new content-only plugin, and you give it a name and an author so that people know who to look up when they have questions about the asset. And be really conscious when you name your plugin, because it's one of the trickier things to change. But you can always make another one because they're just objects, and move everything over. It's really nice. And then once you have that plugin, what you can do is simply go into that content folder. Here I brought the beach environment into my level. You can see it on the lower left here, right? It's up here, and my plugin's down here in the plugins directory. And all you have to do is basically take the content, move it into the folder, and Unreal will do its thing. And you can break things up, right, by concepts. Like this is the beach scene, for example. So now I have all these empty folders in Unreal, but they're not really empty. Unreal has these redirectors that it uses to make sure that you don't break your entire project just by moving something. And you can fix those up just by right-clicking and fixing redirectors. And Unreal will resolve all the references. Because this was a sample, I didn't really have any crazy dependencies, and now I can just go in my plugin, in my maps, and load up my beach. And what's amazing about that, though, is now in my project folder, I have a directory that, oh, sorry about that, didn't mean to zap you. I have a directory in that plugins folder here that I can now put into my version control system and distribute. And I can build directly in that, just like any other folder in Unreal. This is a huge enabler. And we made, one of my colleagues, Frank, made a tutorial on the EDC on how to do a complete digital asset management reference implementation on an automated, or I won't say automated, on a structured way to build out your own libraries inside your organization, both for the front end on the user with user control, but also the whole back end. And you can tweak that for your organization. We did this because we know that it's complicated when you have to go to the cloud or you have to go outside your firewall. And we wanted to show you the basic fundamental steps on how you can get this set up in your org. I highly recommend you check it out. Using one file per actor enabled us to not lock each other out. Perforce was a huge enabler to this project's success because we were constantly working collaboratively across all these different areas. And using the one file per actor system meant we didn't lock out the map every time somebody tried to change one element in the scene. So do acclimate yourself for that. And when you're working that way, just know that inside Unreal, it'll show you the actors and the object name of what you're version controlling. And inside Perforce, it's file-based, so it will show you these kind of interesting file names, which is like the hash of the objects. These can be looked up inside the content browser, and you can see these. So what I would say is just make sure you understand when you're making your plugins that you're going to want to use P4V from Perforce to make sure everything's checked into your project. And then when you're working in the project, when you're working in content-related stuff, use Unreal's revision control window to see what you're working with. But make sure you check with Perforce that you're capturing everything. They really work hand in hand. They're not mutually exclusive, really, in any way. And there's a lot of great resources out there. On the client side, you're going to want to make sure you set up your P4 ignore. This gets a little in the weeds, but it's important. I wanted to make sure these resources were available to you if you're setting up version control for the first time. The P4 ignore file is what makes sure that you don't put stuff you don't want into version control. Things like the saved folder, things like the intermediates, those are for you locally. They're not intended to be in version control. And on the server side, if you're a P4 admin, the team's put an amazing resource together to help you set up a tight map so that you can do this on the server side and really control your environment so you don't bloat your storage and confuse your users. This talk was given in Prague. It's phenomenal. Definitely worth checking out for those best practices, as well as Jace did one yesterday here at Fest about how to avoid some of these common pitfalls. The console variables window is also really, really powerful. what this does is it let us look at how we were changing the underlying variables, for the lack of a better term, inside Unreal as we were tweaking and tuning things like the nanite system, the lumen system, the things we typically do. As solution architect, we love these tools because it lets us quickly see what users have done and what decisions have been made, and it's very apparent of what's going on, because in the past you'd have to kind of like type and figure all this stuff out. And so, I'm flipping the vignette here, you can see, it kind of changes out. And one other thing is that presets window. I'm gonna keep moving for time, but I encourage you to check this out because you can easily add console variables at the top. You can save presets, and those presets are assets that you can put in version control. So now you're establishing those standards. So you get a common look and a really powerful way to do this. Here I mess with the clip plane so you can quickly see it's easy to add and delete those things. And again, here in the presets window, you can see all the different variations of things that we were playing with. This worked really well as we were working with the visual effects team because we could really test and tune what parameters affected what things. So you can hear a lot of what I'm saying has to do with infrastructure. And if you can invest just a little bit in your infrastructure, every project, you will be able to just incrementally grow your efficiency. And just having a DevOps team, whether it's a partner internally or having an external service partner help ramp you up on that, having that underlying thing lets your team stay focused and be creative and really drive their focus on the product where it belongs. Unreal's very customizable. Having custom developers, folks that can tune and tweak the engine, we use standard APIs, right? There's somebody in your organization that likely knows how to develop. And they're probably excited about getting to play around with something as cool as this. So, look around you. If you don't have anybody, I'm proud to support our I'm proud to support our service partner program. This directory is a capable group of companies looking to support you as you're onboarding and scaling. And we're focused on empowering creators. We don't do those services, so this is a great way to find somebody to help you out and get started. As I mentioned, having a robust DevOps team, one step at a time leads to so much. Having render on demand, continuous integration, orchestration, all this stuff helps you scale your business. And if you're one of those folks, Horde is awesome. As my friend said, it's a nuclear weapon for automotives and transportation and product visualizers. It's so worth setting up your infrastructure. The smaller that you are, the more you will immediately benefit from Horde. It's UE-specific continuous integration. It has studio telemetry, device management, build acceleration coordination, Unreal Game Sync metadata service. And it can be run on the cloud, but more importantly, for most of you that I see, it can run in your organization. So check it out. And Ari did a huge benefit. We are always asked, how does Epic do things? What's the Epic way, right? And he did a huge service to the dev community by documenting and sharing these resources along the way at Prague this year. So check that out. He put his heart, a lot of time into that. And today I've been focusing on more of the content pipeline. This is more about the studio infrastructure. Turn your projects into templates. Now that you've made your plugins, now that you have self-contained assets, now that you're version controlling, right? Now that you've got your stuff set up the way that you want, it's very easy to promote a project to a template. And a lot of groups are already doing this, but give it a shot. It's really easy. You can take all your recipes, all your interchange stuff, all your console variables, all your materials that you want in your plugins, and you associate them to a template. And this builds a foundation for everyone to collect useful assets in a common place for a specific purpose. You can have many templates. And it's really easy to set up. All you have to do is basically 6 steps. You clean up and optimize your project, you move it into the folder, you tell Unreal that it's there, and you assign a category to it. And then you can distribute it with your engine to all your end users. As we continue to battle test and refine the rendering features, having the path tracer at your fingertips is really powerful. It's fun. It's, I think, the A button on our experience. We just hit it, we're in path trace. I'm often asked whether to use one or both, and what I'd like to just impress on you today is to probably use both, but I would start with a real-time first approach. We're continuing to improve the path tracer because we know it's used in offline rendering and that videos and images are required. They're kind of the cost of entry, table stakes. But if you do a real-time first solution, then your customers can interact with your products in a more meaningful and consistent way. And if this is all a lot, and you have users that just want to dip their toes in Unreal, I'd really encourage you to check out Twinmotion. It's a great way to get in the Unreal ecosystem and get hands-on quickly with real-time product visualization. We have templates, we've really focused on that in the newest versions, and it complements your strategy. Any project in Twinmotion can be brought directly into Unreal. So if you have users that are just contributing to the process and you want to polish and finish in Unreal, they work hand in hand. And Stephen did a great talk today about the bundle that you're getting now when you license Unreal and how Reality Capture, Twinmotion, Unreal all work together. So here's some observations I've had for successful teams, just to wrap things up. They're cross-functional across art, development, infrastructure, and architecture. There's cross-organizational commitment. They have a high-value initial proof of concept and an incremental scaling plan. Eat the elephant one bite at a time. High leverage internal or external scaling partners to ramp up quickly. Don't go into the forest alone. And you have clear ownership for your infrastructure. You're using a continuous integration and a continuous deployment system mindset. You're designing for concurrency and collaboration. Your assets are developed as a single point of truth, and you're leveraging that intelligence upstream to really drive value. You have folks that are studying on how to debug and optimize, and you're embedded at key parts of the design decision-making process. And Unreal is typically being used across many areas: the customer experience, the ergonomics, the training, the design, the review, and the marketing. So think beyond your expertise. Take ownership of your platform. Build some standards. Build out your systems in a flexible and modular way. This will bring you engaging interaction and let you reuse things across projects. Look at your stuff in real-world context and have fun. Explore the world. And optimize the good stuff that you have everywhere by taking these projects, breaking them into plugins, and distributing as templates so you don't have to start from zero. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.